Hey everybody, I couldn't sleep, so I figured I'd do another video. Now, I wanted to answer two questions. Hold on one second. One second. Audio input capture. I just saw a setting, I don't know what it is. Mic. That's interesting. Well, anyways, so first question I want to answer was from my buddy Mini Trevor. I shouldn't call him that, but there's Big Trevor, and then there's Mini Trevor. Two Trevors. One is big, one is not so big. The size difference between the two of them is actually pretty extreme, but not the point. Point being, he asked me, how do I remember all the variations of certain things? Like, for example, how do I come up with the variations for my side control escapes? How do I come up with the variations for, say, my Kimura sweeps? Even though there's only two or three that I do. Kimura sweeps from half guard, basically. You know, just how do I come up with variations for techniques and things to do from different positions? Now, the answer is actually pretty simple. Just experience, time in. Just going to practice, learning things, exchanging ideas with training partners and teammates. Now, it all sounds very simple, but 6-7 years in, by the time you get to like purple beltish, you're gonna accumulate a lot of knowledge, and you're gonna acquire a bunch of different skills. So eventually you'll get there. And I kind of feel like that's a very cliched thing to say, but if you want a large library of techniques, you have to train, you have to observe, you have to just put time in, go to class. You have to drill, of course. That way you can get build that muscle memory and get the practical application of what you're trying to do going. And you just have to keep going. People say it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that actually is very true with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you turn it into a sprint, you'll burn out, you probably get hurt, etc. It's just the way things are. If you take it at a slow, steady pace and you have a long-term mindset, so to speak, then you'll be fine. You'll have fun, you'll acquire skill, and you'll get better. You'll see the improvement. Now, it can be hard to see when you first start because you don't feel like you're getting better. You'll try to do different techniques during rolling, and it just, you might try the same technique 100 times, and it never works. You might try a technique for years and get frustrated because you can't pull it off, and then years later, just some random time, you can. So, simplistically put, you just have to keep training, keep going at it. If you have a training partner who's going too crazy or is performing things in a manner that's you feel like it's gonna hurt you, you gotta let them know, because you need to keep in order to get to the point where you acquire skill that a purple belt has, for example, you need to keep training consistently and just minimize your timeout. So minimize your injuries. Just general stuff like that. You know, there's no golden ticket to skill acquisition, really. You know, just time in, persistence, and training. That's it. Now, for my gentlemen out there who are 40 and older, you, in my opinion, go a little bit slower than normal and pick your training partners, especially if you're not a professional athlete. You know, if you're just your average run-of-the-mill dad who has a desk job and you can't physically condition yourself as best as you want to. You have to make sure that you pick your training partners very well, and even more so the older that you get. If you have a crazy training partner, somebody who goes at an intensity that might hurt you or is hurting you, leave them alone. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you have to keep up with everybody that you train with. Now, there's people where they might even be in your age bracket. There's people who are going to be physically more gifted. There's people who are going to be extremely strong, extremely flexible, extremely, they have a gas tank for days, for example. But don't compare yourself to those people. There's always going to be the exception to the rule floating around somewhere, and you might encounter that person at an open mat. They may be one of your regular training partners, but you have to recognize that they're the exception to the rule, and the way that they train may not be the best thing for you. Now, even I find myself doing this sometimes, where I'll get into a good role with someone, especially somebody younger, faster, in better shape, and we'll get into scramble after scramble after scramble after scramble, and I feel like I have to keep up with them. And 80% of the time I can. Is it a good idea? Probably not. But, luckily I'm still at the point physically where I can still do that. But today, there was a point where I realized that my training partner really could have injured me simply because during one of our scrambles, I recognized that he was faster, he was stronger, but he had far less control than most of the people that I generally train with. So there was not multiple times. There's one specific time where he could have broken my wrist because he was applying a wrist lock in a very dangerous manner. And he didn't know any better, which is fine. I corrected him. But a little bit more pressure, and I'd probably be in the hospital, the ER, trying to get my wrist checked out. So, just gotta watch out. Just gotta watch out. That's really all I wanted to do. Just want to get those ideas out there. Training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is easier when you're in better shape. When I started and I was extremely out of shape, it was a very difficult thing. But I stuck with it. I improved when I could, and quite frankly, I was extremely stubborn when I started, so there's no way I was going to give up just because, I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, tap into pressure, being extremely out of shape to the point I was. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was really a gut check, because, if had I actually gotten into a fight at that point or had to defend myself or my family, if it lasted longer than a minute, I'd probably be dead from a heart attack or an asthma attack, But I'm doing better now, and I think that's one of the most important things for anybody when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially my 40-plus friends, if they decide to do it, is that you have to recognize it's going to suck at first. It's going to suck bad. The more in shape you are, the better it will be at first. But, worst case scenario, you're gonna have thoughts of quitting. You're gonna have a lot of thoughts of quitting. But if it's something you want to do, and it's something that you're dedicated to, and that you know that you need to do it to keep in shape for whatever reason, or whatever your reasons are, you need to hunker down and dedicate yourself to the idea that this is something that you want to do. You know, and you can apply that to anything difficult. Anything worth doing is always extremely difficult at first. Or hell, it may be extremely difficult from point A to point B, from beginning to end, which is fine. But, it's the nature of the beast. I've had the opportunity to train with a multitude of different people, and some of them are extremely athletic, some of them are not athletic, some of them were overweight when they started, just like I was. Some of them were freaking, almost professional athlete tier conditioning physically. And that's the interesting thing. Like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think, is unique. And there's probably several other martial arts and sports that are the same way, where it doesn't matter what walk of life that you're from. When it comes time to step on the mat, the only thing that matters is you. Your degree doesn't matter. Anything outside of that mat at that particular moment in time just doesn't matter. Great. You might have a bachelor's degree and be unemployed. That guy right there probably has a doctorate, has a 6-figure job and is world renowned for something. None of that matters. It'll be you versus him on the mat, and it'll be your skill against his skill, and your physical attributes. All your pluses or minuses. But your education, your profession, your beliefs don't matter. And that's the cool thing. You'll see people of all sorts of different backgrounds and ideas and different statuses and places of life, hanging out, laughing, simulating murder on each other, and having a good time, and they can't wait to do it the next time they come in. That's what's up. Anyways, I think that's good. So, just a quick little stream, just a few thoughts. I'm going to bed. I'll see y'all later.